The CSUN Black House would like to welcome you to Black Teachers Matter. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Clap it up. Our goal tonight is to empower and inspire more Black and Brown CSUN students to become interested and involved in the LAUSD K through 12 system. We have several special guests here with us tonight and a lot of great information. So sit back and relax, grab a snack too. And it's time for Black Teachers Matter. Remember, you can drop questions all night long in our Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So be sure to ask our special guests any questions that may come up throughout their presentations.
Tonight, the Dean of Michael D. Eisner College of Education, Dr. Shari Tarver Baring, has joined us to say a few words. Dr. Shari Tarver Baring, PhD in BCC, has served as the Dean or Interim Dean of the Michael D. Eisner College of Education since July 2017. During this period, she has overseen successful reaccreditation from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, CTC, for 27 credential pathways in one of the largest colleges of education in the CSU. Fostered a research culture while increasing research grants and philanthropy, launched the Teaching Inspires recruitment and marketing campaign, supported the only undergraduate department in the college, Deaf Studies, in achieving high freshman retention rates and surpassing 3-year graduation targets, and championed college faculty as leaders of educational initiatives addressing social justice, equity, access, and inclusion. Dr. Shari Tarver Baring.
Thank you very much, Breed. And welcome, everyone. I am so honored to be here tonight with all of you, and I am so grateful for your attendance and your interest in finding more about how to become a teacher. I want to first of all thank everyone at the Black House, the ASI folks, the department chair, Dr. White, and your Dean, Cersei, for all of their support and their partnership throughout our work in trying to diversify the workforce to have it be more reflective of the community we serve as teachers in education K-12. It is our goal to increase especially the Black teacher enrollment in the College of Education to be reflective of the community around us, so that we can provide role models that will help to change the educational institution, addressing implicit biases, and setting examples for our students out there on what the world can be and the way that we can make it a better place than it is right now. We're passionate about our work in the College of Education, and we need passionate students like yourselves to come join us and be a part of this great work that we're doing. So thank you for allowing us to be here with you tonight and sharing all of the great information that we can tell you about in terms of our college. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you very soon in our college, becoming a teacher and making a difference yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate you. We know you're so busy, you have a lot of things to do, but you're here to talk to our students tonight, and that's really what's important, just knowing that we have a dean that can come to our events and that we can go and talk to and things like that. So thank you so much for being here. We truly appreciate it. Next up, we have Dr. Ivories. Dr. Ivories began her teaching career by homeschooling her son through the 2nd grade. She then taught 3rd grade and then later 6th grade and later high school. Her academic accomplishments included earning an Associate of Arts in Science, a Bachelor's in Child Development, a Master's in Educational Leadership, and a Doctorate in Educational Leadership in Policy Studies from, guess where, y'all? Cal State Northridge. She's a matador. Yes, clap it up for her. She was in this department herself. So we have somebody straight out of this department to talk to us tonight. Um, her focus was the perception of school experiences and the belonging of African American high school male students. Dr. Ivory has also served as a high school administrator for more than 10 years. She's an educator, she's an author, she's a speaker, she's an educational consultant, a newly elected school board trustees. Congratulations. Her love for people and learning and teaching is evident in her work, and she is gifted and an insightful educator. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ivory.
Thank you, Kyle. Kyla, it felt like you knew me, so I really appreciate that warm introduction. And we just met tonight. I'd like to thank the entire Black House and your committee for this invitation. Thank you so much for even coming up with this topic and being brave enough to start this conversation. Also have a special thanks to Dean Tarver Baring for, as Kamala Harris said, having the audacity to focus on increasing your Black teacher population. It is needed, it's critical. And if there's any way that I can help you outside of this, you can count on me because I believe in what you're doing. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, who has been a great bridge between me and this assignment, this privilege. She has been available and very organized. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And without any further ado, I want to make sure that we state that I am twice a Matador. I received my bachelor's from CSUN and my doctorate, and I was actually the first cohort to receive their doctorate. So the 2011 class was the first year. So I was in that inaugural class, and I am very, very proud to be a Matador. So it means a whole lot to me to come back and give back. I started preparing for this weeks ago, and my presentation changed several times. It actually got really long. Don't worry, I switched it. And the reason it got long wasn't because I just enjoy talking. Well, I do enjoy talking, but the reason it got long because this is a very critical topic, and I wanted to share everything I knew about it in 45 minutes. So I won't do that. I adjusted the presentation. And if you ever want me back, you want more information, you can reach out to me. But I want to let you know that Black teachers matter. They really do. I am a product, I'm a byproduct of the public school system, and Black teachers matter. And later in the presentation, I'll give you some reasons why. Of course, I started out with a bunch of statistics for you, but statistics and as teachers or wherever you are in life, just know statistics without an adequate narrative can be manipulative and sometimes misleading. So since I didn't have the time to give you the narrative behind my study and how a sense of school belonging really impacts Black boys, that's my area. I decided to take a different route to really express to you how Black teachers matter. So I want to start with this real icebreaker, though. I want you to really pay attention and be prepared to share back with me. And of course, I'm not pulling this up. Give me just a minute. I did practice this before. we started. And I adapt very well too. So we may have to do something different. Oh, here it is. Am I sharing my screen?
No.
No. Okay. I'm coming back. Whoa. Share screen. Thank you for your patience, everybody. No way. Okay, so who's here that has the ability to share their screen that can pull up something on YouTube for me?
You could send me the link or put it in the chat box, Dr. Ivory, and I could probably pull it up through the chat box.
Okay. That's our icebreaker, and it's I practiced this. Okay, you know what? We're gonna move on. I'll come back to that. So tonight we're talking about Black Teachers Matter. Black Teachers Matter. What you're seeing now is really the impetus of just my existence in education now. I wrote this book from my dissertation and really just rewrote it in a very user-friendly way and took out all of the research language. We do have a bibliography in the back. But one of the things that inspired me to make this reader-friendly is because I believe that there's a lot of information that educators and parents and students themselves do not have. So I want you to take a look at the young man in the back is one of my former students. I met him because he was in my office a lot, and not because he was very disruptive. It was because of how his behavior was perceived from most of his teachers. And giving him the communication skills and helping him to learn how to adapt was something that unfortunately I had too much practice with. And that really encouraged me to want to come over and be a part of what you're doing now, Black Teachers Matter. When you look at this student, tell me what you see. Feel free to use the chat box. Tell me what you see. See a sweet boy, okay? A happy kid, a happy young Black boy. Well, what you see impacts how you teach him. This is first grade. In the first grade, this kid put a pencil sharpener in backwards. So the eraser first to sharpen the eraser. Of course, he's a boy in first grade. The teacher happened to be white. And let me give a disclaimer. this isn't a white teacher versus black teacher presentation. I believe that we can have culturally proficient teachers in any race. However, 80% of the teaching faculty or the teaching population happens to be white. Well, when you don't have credentialing programs or universities who are adequately preparing our 80% white workforce to interact and educate and develop relationships with Black and Brown students, but particularly we're talking about Black teachers, when we don't have educational facilities to teach them how to interact with Black children, then we continue with this big divide that we have when it comes to Black males. I'm not sure if you read this, but look at this first caption. How can that be? What do you think about that? What does that spark for you? 8% of the students enrolled in public schools nationally, but they overwhelmingly represent 25% of students who were suspended. How do you explain that? Anybody want to take a guess? Or how does it make you feel? What do you think about? I'll wait. Fear. Sad. It's sad. It is. And guess what? This didn't start in 2018. It's been this way for a very, very long time. Look at the second bullet. For me, it reminds me how people are not aware of Black kids' development and go straight to discipline. Yes, Kyle, Devin, unequal. It is. It's very unequal. I wish I had the time to talk to you guys in a little bit more depth about that, but I don't. But you'll see a little later why I say Black teachers matter. It's statistics like this, and I can go on and share more with you, but it's more of the same story. I don't know if you know that Black males are at the top of the list for everything negative. Suicide, homicide, HIV, unemployment, you name it. Suspended, incarcerated, everything negative. Black males are at the top of the list. Contrary to what some may say and frame it, it's not because Black people or Black males are born with a particular deficiency. We are not. But there is systemic racism even in schools. And that's what we have to address. I have 45 minutes, so I'm not going to address that. I am getting ready to talk about why Black teachers matter. Tell me what you see. I didn't time myself, so maybe I need to go on. Jacqueline, please keep me abreast of my time. When I do this project, I usually ask the participants to tell me a little bit about this student. And I ask them, what type of environment was she raised in? Did she have mother and father or single parent? If single parent, then do you think it was the mother or the father? Which parent? What kind of car do you think they owned? And it's usually very interesting. We have a really good talk. Of course, you've probably figured out by now that that's me. And I want to tell you, I had one mom who did not graduate from high school. My father was around, but he wasn't around. We lived in the same city, but I didn't see him. I had two sisters and a brother, and my two sisters stopped going to school in the 8th grade. School was a choice in my household. Wasn't because my mom didn't love me. It was because she had figured out a way to make a living without an education, and I guess she figured I would too. She was also very intimidated by the school system, and so she didn't go very often to meet any of my teachers or any principals. No matter what happened at school, they were not going to see my mom. I remember acting out in school sometimes, hoping they would call her and she would come. What I didn't understand then is that my mom did not have vacation time. She didn't have sick days. She could not take off and come to my school because if she didn't work, she didn't get paid. And she had 4 children. When I hear teachers at schools and they say, I've never seen the parent, can't get them to come, they don't care about their children, I quickly address them because sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it is. That's a reality. But sometimes that isn't the case. Sometimes they don't trust the system. Sometimes they don't know how to navigate the system. Sometimes it's because when they come to schools, they experience a lot of condescending attitudes from teachers. They may not be able to pronounce that word. They may not be able to articulate the feelings that they get, but they understand that it's still very uncomfortable. So I brought up this picture to say to you that my hair, I don't know if you can notice, like my hair isn't, I combed my own hair this particular day, by the way. And that's because my mom was going to work before I got up many days, and that's another long story. But I had a teacher named Miss Carmen, and I'm going to stop sharing now. Just wanted you to see those pictures. And you guys can come back on screen too if you like. But the kid that you saw, the little boy, that's my son Alonzo. And when Alonzo put his pencil in the pencil sharpener backwards, he laughed because it made this noise. I got a call from work and I thought he set the school on fire. Like I thought it was horrible. Something bad had really happened. He was in this Christian private school. It was only maybe 3 or 4 Black kids at the predominantly white school. And again, I am framing a situation. This is not stereotype. This is real life. This is what happens. And when I get to the school and I see the teacher and she is flustered and she has the pastor in the room, the principal is in the room, and my son is sitting in a corner by himself in 1st grade. All the adults are on the other side of the room and he's sitting in a corner by himself. So I walk in and I find out what happened. And the teacher says to me, he put the pencil in backwards, and I just cannot believe that he would destroy the only pencil sharpener in the classroom. You should have him tested. And he laughed when he did it. If you would have listened to this teacher, she made that same little boy, I'm not going to try to pull his picture back up. She demonized him. And so the way she saw him determined how she taught him. Needless to say, that was the last day that he attended that school, but he experienced it. And so it's very important that we increase the minority or Black teachers in the education system for several reasons. The first one, I will say, because They can be role models. Oh, I skipped my hair. I have a teacher named Miss Carmen. When I talk about role models, I got to school really early to avoid fights in my neighborhood. And Miss Carmen would see me outside and she'd ask me to come in early. Miss Carmen told me it was because she was afraid of being in the building by herself. But, as I got older, I realized she wasn't. She was just giving me a safe place. So I was allowed to come inside the school building instead of sitting on the blacktop playing tetherball when it was dark sometimes, because I wanted to get to school early so that I wouldn't have to fight. But we need Black teachers because they can be role models. They can be role models for Black children. Because if we don't start to see ourselves in leadership positions and understand that Blacks are leaders, Black women are leaders, Black men are leaders, so that we could see ourselves in them as role models. Black teachers matter to Black kids because they get to see themselves. Another reason I have role models, and then that cultural congruence. It's nice to see somebody who looks like you, that understands you, and that means that it's not always you're being bad or good or labeling, but understand how to relate to you. I remembered I did a presentation before COVID at a private school, and it was predominantly white, but there were a few Black kids, and as I was talking, they were talking too. But they were talking to me, and the teachers kept getting up and telling them to be quiet, and they were about to take them out of the auditorium, out of the assembly, and I stopped them and said, "It's okay. They're not being disruptive. We are communicating." They were finishing some of my sentences. They were laughing at what I was saying because they got it. But it's that disconnect that sometimes we can have, not necessarily because we're racist, that does exist, but sometimes it's because we're just uninformed. There's that big cultural gap. Do you have to be Black to teach Black children? Absolutely not. But you need to be culturally proficient. And sometimes we miss it because we think our norm is the norm. And that's where we get off track. And what you don't know can hurt them. Now, our president pulled some things off the table about diversity training and those kind of things. And I'm here to say that we have to prepare teachers about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Because what you don't know and what they haven't known has hurt some Black kids. I'm one. That also works in other races. I remember being a high school teacher and I was reprimanding one of my Hispanic students outside of the class. And I kept telling him to look at me. You're being very disrespectful. And he was looking down while I was talking, and it just rubbed me the wrong way because in my culture, you look at an adult eye to eye, you look them in their face, and that's respectful. So I wrote him a referral and I sent him to the office. And later I had a conversation with the assistant principal who was Hispanic. And she said to me, he was actually showing you respect. In my culture, she says, you don't look an adult in the eye when you're being reprimanded. And I felt horrible. 87% of the population of the students at this particular school were Hispanic. How did I get to teach at a school and not get educated on something so basic as a few cultural norms? I had no idea. So I'm reprimanding a student as if my culture is the right culture. We do things the right way, as if I had the word escapes me right now, but as if I got to define what respect looks like. No. So he was being respectful, but I didn't understand his culture. Do you have to be Hispanic to teach Hispanic kids? No. But there are a few basics that we need to understand about different cultures. And when we are aware, that we are culturally different, then we don't jump to conclusions and we learn more and we're open. But I think I'm staying on that too long. But it's critical. And as teachers, and I'm so glad that our dean is here because I have a heart to help universities do something better and different to prepare the workforce for our kids. So Miss Carmen not only let me inside the school building, she also started to comb my hair. I have Miss Mathis when I was in elementary school. She saw that I was an advanced reader and she took it upon herself to move me up to a higher class, which was talented and gifted, which my mom didn't attend school parent meetings or anything like that. So she wouldn't have known to sign me up. She would not have been able to navigate that system for me. But my teacher decided to take it upon herself to do that. Then I had Mr. Weber. He was my fourth, fifth, and sixth grade math teacher. He was the first Black man to ever tell me I was smart, and I never forgot that. Then I have Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams was my art teacher, and most of you guys are too young to know this song. I don't even have to tell you what the song was, but it was one of my mom's favorite songs, but it was very grown up. Well, on Fridays, we could take records. Oh, Lord, you guys probably don't know what records are, but we could take records to school on Fridays. And I took my mom's favorite record to school, and Mr. Williams let it play. And as soon as it finished, he called me to his desk and he told me to put it in my backpack and to never bring that to school again. It wasn't appropriate for school age kids. And he said to me, I'm sorry that you even know that song, but don't bring it back to school. He didn't shame me. Sixth grade, I have Miss Nair. I still remember these teachers. Miss Nair was my health teacher, and she was teaching us about marijuana. And she was talking about how dangerous of a drug it was and all of these things. And I raised my hand because I'm figuring she's a teacher. She doesn't really understand how marijuana works. So as a sixth grader, I want to educate her on how marijuana works. And I'd say to her, no, that stuff is not true. It just makes you hungry and it makes you laugh a lot. It gives you the munchies and it makes you laugh a lot. And you could also get a contact. Now I'm in the sixth grade and I know this. How do I know this? Because marijuana is smoked often in my house. Miss Nair takes me outside, just like Mr. Williams, and she politely says to me, I know how you know this information, and that's not good. But don't ever share that with kids. Marijuana is something that adults should talk about. I don't ever want to hear you talk about that with other kids, and I don't want you to talk about it at school. Well, I didn't really understand any of that until, of course, I got much older, but I do want to point out that she handled me very cautiously, and she didn't shame me for something that I didn't have any control over. Then I have Miss Davis. Miss Davis was my geometry teacher, and she said some profane words to me outside in the hallway once because I was content with making B's. And she actually told me, get out of my class. I'm going to give you a different geometry teacher if you're happy with B's because you're an A student. And then I have Miss Hirsch, and then I have Miss Cox, and then I'm not going to go through all of them, but I have three more who were white. These were not Black teachers, but they helped me run for homecoming queen. They picked me up for cheerleading. I made cheer, but we didn't have a car. And so Miss Cox, who is white, would pick me up for every game, every practice, take me home, help me raise money. She was there. And so I am not just saying that Black students need Black teachers, but Black students need culturally proficient teachers, and they definitely need to see more Black teachers. I'm not really sure where I am in time, but not only do Black students need to see Black teachers, non-Black students need to see Black teachers. This is how they get to combat some of the racism and some of the stereotypes because it becomes personal when they get to experience a Black person, a Black teacher, a Black friend, And a lot of the things that are happening now, you've seen the protests, it's not just Black people, it's all different races and ethnicities, because now it's personal. Some of those people, most of those people know somebody that's Black. And so it does touch them, and it's important to them. Well, that's one of the benefits of having a Black teacher for non-Black students. They get to relate. They get to have an extended family member, the teacher, who's Black. They get to learn some of the culture, and they get to not tolerate diversity, but they start to learn how to celebrate diversity. A lack of diversity in any category is not good. But how will they be exposed to other races, particularly the Black race, if Black teachers are missing from the scene? I am who I am because of the Miss Carmens and the Miss Jones and Mr. Williams and Miss Nair. I am who I am because I had Black teachers that saw my potential, but they also saw what my life would be like without a proper education. They understood even then that direct correlation between education and income. They cared. They cared. So I say to you that I, coming from a single parent home, mom not involved in any of my education, I am who I am and where I am because I had educators who went beyond the call of duty. They didn't see it as beyond the call of duty. They were just being educators. But they produced a Black woman with a doctorate, with all of the hurdles and all of the challenges it takes to complete an education I experienced. But I am who I am because of those teachers, not because of my grandmother or my mother or my father or my sister or my brother. No, I am a byproduct of Dallas public school system and teachers who were Black and cared. I'll end there. We have any questions? Here's a good place for our discussion. And no, I did not finish my presentation, but I'm sure I'm out of time.
Dr. Ivory, there's no questions in the Q&A box. You have about 15 more minutes still, if you have anything else you want to add.
Sure. Yeah. No questions? I can't believe you guys don't have any questions or comments. You can make a comment and we can talk about that. Oh, Bree said, I definitely dealt with the same bias being a young Black girl that was talkative and would sometimes speak out of turn. I was excited to learn, but I had trouble speaking only when I was allowed to. Bree, and because you've had that experience, if you go into education, when you see other young girls or boys that have that tendency, you'll learn how to make them leaders. You'll learn how to do that. And it is very harmful when we perceive them to be disruptive when they're just curious or they just have a different way of relating. Let me give you another idea, and I'm coming back to the comments. Had another teacher, that same son, his teacher, he was looking out the window and the kindergartners were playing outside, and she says to him, Alonzo, would you like to go outside and play with the other kindergartners? And he said, yes. Can I take James with me? James was his friend. So they call me at work and I come back, to the school for this. And I had to explain to her that in my household and in my culture, we don't really do rhetorical questions. Don't ask my son, would you like to go outside and play with the other kindergartners? Of course he'd rather go outside than do math. But for her, he was being disrespectful and she just didn't understand it. But I had to explain to her, but we don't talk to him like that. I'm his mom. I don't ask him, do you need a spanking? Do you need a nap? No, We tell our kids certain things. So there are a few cultural differences that really impact our kids because we assume that our norm is their norm and nobody is there to correct that misinformation. That's another reason we need Black teachers in schools. That's real. Yes, celebrate diversity. I really enjoyed your stories. I have plenty more stories. I learn best that way. And so I try to share with other people. This is real for me. I'm not a textbook educator. I have experienced some realities on both sides as a student, as a parent, as a teacher, as an administrator. And so this stuff is real. And if we don't address it systemically, it's going to continue. And thank you so much, Dean, because part of how we do that is we start to recruit Black teachers and train them. Thank you for sharing your personal testimony, connecting it to relevant research. Oh my, guys, if you see there is Consuelo Hernandez Williams. That's actually the assistant principal who pulled me aside after I talked to the Hispanic student, and I was so upset that he was looking down. She's the Hispanic assistant principal that I was speaking to that said to me, no, he was showing you respect. He wasn't being disrespectful. So it's important to have diversity on campus because wherever we experience error, we should have somebody there to correct us. And so that we continue to learn and grow about different ethnicities and different cultures. Jacqueline, you want to read it? Is that a question?
Yeah, so the next comment was from Vera Hampton. This is great. Thank you so much for speaking today. I had 2 Black teachers in my academic career. I didn't experience that until college, a professor of ethics in my undergrad and my professor in my MA program. Representation matters, and I do hope more Black teachers come into the field. Me too. I am applying for my PhD, and I hope to get into the classroom at the university level.
That's great. Representation does matter. Representation does matter. How many of you had a Black teacher? Oh, we don't have a way to raise hands.
That people could chime in. So if people want to answer it in the chat, if the first time you remember the first time you had a Black teacher, that would be great. And as people are filling in the first time you had a Black teacher or the first Black teacher you remember, there's a question in the Q&A box. Dr. Ivory, what advice would you give to a Black and or brown person aspiring to become a teacher, but feel the burdens of financial hardship?
You know, that's really, I feel that. And that is one of the barriers of having minority students go the route for teaching. Many of them, or many of us, Black and brown, cannot afford to not get paid during student teaching. We have families. Even if we don't have children, we help and we provide for other family members. And so that is a barrier. The financial piece is a barrier. And I believe that universities are going to have to come together and have a plan B so that it is financially feasible to and attractive for Black and brown educators. But tonight we're talking about Black teachers, but to have to get them on board. We don't have a problem paying additional stipends for people who have specialties. If you speak Spanish, there's an additional stipend. If you're bilingual, if you have a degree in, if you have a master's, you get additional amount of money. We have incentives. And I really believe that the criticality of our educational system warrants us finding a way to help finance minority students, Black students, as they desire to come into the field of education. But if we give them an opportunity and just say, yes, we will take them, we've we're giving scholarships for them to enter. That opportunity is really just empty without preparation. If we don't prepare for the obstacles and the barriers that keep them from coming in, then just opening the doors for more Black teachers, it's not enough. And so I feel your hardship. I think I digressed, but I would say if your heart's desire is to change the life and the trajectory of lives of students, gotta make a way for the finances. And talk to your dean, go talk to everybody you can on the campus and express to them, I want to do this. Who will help me?
So Dr. Ivory or everybody in attendance, when Dr. Ivory's done, I am going to go over the program, credential program at CSUN, and I will talk about financial aid and scholarships. So stick around. We have another question in the Q&A box, and I will go over this too also in my presentation. But Dr. Ivory, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think having Black teachers in special education will be beneficial?
Yes, I think having Black teachers everywhere is beneficial. We have special ed students that need to see someone that looks like them and can relate to them. Absolutely. We need Black teachers across the board. I taught and was an administrator in California for 15 years. And I never got to see anybody that looked like me. I taught at one particular school, and we didn't have a Black janitor. We didn't have a Black person in the kitchen. There was nobody. It is very important for people to be able to see themselves and not, I don't even want to get into that exceptional, those posters where you have one Black kid. That's not what I'm talking about. But yes, I think it's important to have Black teachers in special ed. And it really gets lonely when students are not able to see themselves in proportion to what the demographics are. If you are 80% Hispanic, how do we have one or two Hispanic teachers when the student population is 80%? If we're not intentionally recruiting, we're part of the problem. One of my sons attended a high school where I was an assistant principal, and sometimes he would just pop in my office to see me, and I'm like, yes, what do you need? Nothing, I just needed to see another Black person. I just wanted to see somebody that looked like me. And he'd go back out. That's important. It is important that people see other people in leadership and teachers who look like them. How proud are the women on here to have a Black and Asian vice president? Even if you're not a Democrat, just to see a female in that spot, because it's been dominated by men. We haven't been able to see ourselves in that spot. So yes, I do believe that that's important.
Here's a good question, Dr. Ivory. As a parent, these narratives really resonate with me. I am frequently challenged trying to ensure my son's educational journey represents him and develops him appropriately. Having difficult conversations and be willing to teach and partner with these teachers are a constant process. How do we engage the teachers that may not have had cultural development opportunities?
I say you write emails to the principal and the superintendent and the school board, and you express your concern about the diversity of their staff. And you send it every month, or show up at the school board meeting every month and you tell them this is important, and ask them, what are you going to do about recruiting more minority students? I believe that teachers, I believe that that's important. We have to start to use our voices. We are not as hopeless as we've been. Now there's a lot more accountability, and most things are filmed, and you have social media. So you want to take the appropriate steps and send letters or emails, go to the school board and tell them this is important to me. I think I saw in the chat that someone had their first Black teacher in college.
Yes. I was going to go over the chat. So a lot of variations. My first Black teacher was a professor at CSUN. Then another two in elementary school, 3rd and 4th grade, and then again in 9th grade. Another one, 5th grade. Another one, elementary school, 3rd and 4th, and then again in 9th grade. That might have been the same one. When I went to elementary school in Greenville, Mississippi, my whole school administration and faculty were Black. When I moved to California, I had a few Black women who had a huge impact on me in the 6th grade. After that, I didn't have another until college. My 2nd grade through 5th grade teachers were all Black women. I went to Windsor Hills Elementary, which was in a predominantly Black community, Baldwin Hills. And I absolutely agree. I worked as an advisor and admissions director at a college prep high school, and students would come and simply sit in my office because they wanted to see and be in the space with someone who looked like them and who could resonate with their experience.
Absolutely. Black teachers matter. Black teachers matter. Now, I will say that some of the Black teachers are also some of the biggest problems for Black students. So being Black isn't an automatic great teacher. We all need the diversity and equity training, the implicit bias. We all need that. We all need that. So I want to make sure that it doesn't come across as if I'm insinuating that if you're Black, you are automatically a great teacher.
Mm.
That's not what I'm saying. I've had some difficulties with Black teachers being exceptionally hard on Black males. And it just falls into the research says that sometimes it's a class difference, but I don't have time to go into that. But I do want to make sure that I am not perpetrating that, Black teachers are just perfect across the line.
If there's not any more questions, we can maybe move on. More people are chiming in about, I was lucky to have about 3. My first was in kindergarten, but my first, I think it was male, was in 3rd grade. Mr. Akili, he was awesome. Male, he was awesome male teacher. Any other questions out there before we move on, we move forward?
Dr. Williams, did you have a final statement or do you have a question? I had a teacher that called me Veronica my entire 4th grade school year, even after my parents corrected her several times. Bree, that is, I'm glad you brought that up. I won't stay on it very long, but names are important to Black students. And they're also important to Hispanic students too. I have enough Hispanic friends, and we've shared this commonality where our names have been changed. And as a teacher, that is totally unacceptable. If you have earned a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, I know you can figure out how to pronounce a name, even if it's difficult. If you need to write it out phonetically, as I have had to do because I am Black, but I've come across some Black names and I'm like, I don't know what this is. But I write it out phonetically, and that name that's a part of them. You don't get to cut it off, shorten it, or give them a nickname because you don't have the ability to, or you don't want to take the time to learn how to pronunciate it correctly. That's not okay. Sometimes our names are part of our identity. It's important. You don't know who named that student, but that's a soapbox. But yeah, Bree, I'm really sorry that you went through that, and that is important. And teachers can be very dismissive about something that's personal and important to you. So I apologize to you for all of the teachers or that teacher who refused to acknowledge your uniqueness and your individuality and took it upon herself or himself to change your name. That wasn't okay. Ryan agrees. It's your identity. Yes. Okay, I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you guys for being so engaging. Thank you again for the invitation. I am not leaving the session. I will be here until the end. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dean. And thank you, Jacqueline, for your hospitality. If there's anything that I can do for any of you, you can find me on Facebook. I'm rarely on Instagram, but I could use some more followers, so you can find me on Instagram. But my website is drsoniaivory.com. You can leave me a note. You can email me. I would love to keep in touch with you, but mainly if there's anything that I can help you do in your educational pursuit, I'm a matador and we take care of each other. Matadors matter. Somebody needs to get some t-shirts made. Matadors matter. Thank you so much.
Can we get a clap for Dr. Ivory? Thank you so much, Dr. Ivory, for coming
Thank
tonight.
you so
Uh,
much.
yeah, it was great.
My
Before
heart
we
is
let you
so
go,
warm
though,
right now.
Who was
before we
that?
let you go, we know that you have a book that you brought along with you tonight. So if you want to talk a little bit about your book and go ahead and do the first raffle, yeah.
Sure. This Who Cares About Black Boys is actually my second book. My husband strategically put it behind me. You could probably see it. And basically, I'm just, it's a user-friendly way of describing my dissertation. I'm hoping to get it in some universities so that teachers who are pre-service or in service can have a way to get this information. And I'm hoping that it will be helpful. And my third book is about bullying. If some of you are in elementary school, Mean Girls Meet Justice is it's this one. They're both on Amazon. Oh, there we go. They're both on Amazon, but it's talking about bullying and it has discussion questions and um, really good to address the social emotional part. And while we're not all in one place in a building, this is a good time for us to really focus on the bullying aspect. And the little girl on the front, that's my granddaughter.
So do we have a name? We're going to raffle some of these books off. So do we have a name for the first raffle? Renee A. Renee A. Congratulations. I think it's Renee Arana. So Renee, if you want to go ahead and put your email in the chat box, I'll get your information so I could send you one of Dr. Ivory's books. And is it okay if I continue, Kyle, with my portion? Okay, great. Hello, everybody. I am Jacqueline Keatsman, and I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint with you. Could everyone see my screen? I hope so, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you everybody for coming. I'm gonna briefly go over our credential program at CSUN. The first time I talked to Dr. Ivory, I was inspired and I was like, should I do a career change? Should I go into teaching? But no, I think my call of duty, my life's work is to promote teaching and to get other people into the door of teaching. So I'm gonna briefly go over our credential program. And as I mentioned, I will talk about financial aid and scholarships. Just a little anecdote, my first Black teacher wasn't in K-12, it was at CSUN. And it was because I decided to take, instead of just regular English 155, I decided, let me do Africana Studies. Back then it was called Pan-African Studies. But I thought, I'm here in college, I wanna learn about other cultures. And this is a great way for me to get my requirement done, but to also extend my horizons a little bit. So my first Black teacher was at CSUN as well. So let me just go move forward and talk about, why you should teach. And Dr. Ivy gave a lot of great reasons and she inspired us. But I do want to let you know, to be a teacher means you're going to have job security and stability. We've all seen in the last year that teachers have not lost their jobs and the teachers have been heroes and they are frontline workers and they're holding it down. California is in a teacher shortage. And we will need 100,000 teachers in the next 10 years. So if you are graduating soon, if you're a student now, if you're wanting to make a career change, this is a great career to go into. There are economic benefits. And so, we've always heard, and I'm a first-gen student, I'm Mexican, grew up with a single mother household. And it's all about making money, right? You go to college to make money. But teachers, and we hear all the time, teachers don't make enough. And it's true, teachers don't make enough. They should be making more. But just because they don't make enough or they should be making more doesn't mean that their salaries are shabby either. They make a pretty decent wage to start off. They start off about $53,000 a year, and it increased steadily throughout their career. The other thing I want to point out to, especially the young people in the room is teachers get great benefits, and that's something that we don't talk about with our youth that much, about the importance of benefits while looking for a career. If you're a teacher, you get great retirement benefits, you get great health benefits, and that's something that's really important. So teaching does give you some economic benefits. And last but not least, making an impact. And that's what we're all about, right? About this session is all about. This is to be a teacher is to serve as a role model and to put into practice your commitment to social justice. As Dr. Ivory said, it's so important for our young Black people to have Black teachers, but it's also important for Mexican students and for white students and for Asian students to have a Black teacher in the classroom, to be a leader, to learn from, to be a mentor. So being a Black teachers do matter, and to be a Black teacher, it's important for the community. It's important for us moving forward. So why CSUN? We have the largest teacher prep program in the CSU. We are represented in 28 school districts and 248 schools, which means that your network is solid. If you become a teacher, you're gonna have a solid network of different CSUN teachers out there. We are champions of social justice, equity, access, and inclusion. And many of our teacher alumni have been recognized as Teacher of the Year. And CSUs, we're about affordability and accessibility. So what can you do to prepare to teach? So if you are a student right now at CSUN, if you're a sophomore, if you're a freshman, or even a senior, you could teach with any major. I think sometimes students think like, oh, I have to major in child development to go into elementary, and that's not true. Any major could prepare you to be a teacher. Reach out to teachers and credential candidates now. Interview them, talk to them. Hear from them of why they chose teaching. What do they like about it? What are their challenges? But really learn from teachers and credential candidates. And if you want us to point you to the right direction of someone, let me know. I could find someone that you could sit down with and talk to. Work and volunteer with the age group that you want to work with. And this is really important. Some of us might think, oh, the little kids are so cute, I want to teach kindergartners. I could tell you from experience in the pandemic, working alongside my first grader every day. First grade kids are tough, and to have 25 of them every day, all day, there is patience needed. And so maybe you volunteer, you work within that age group and you realize, yeah, I don't know if I want to do kindergarten, I think I might want to do middle school, and that's okay. That's why it's important to volunteer with the age group, because you really want to make sure that your heart is in it and that you're passionate about that age group. There's also some testing that's required for admissions, the CBEST and the CSET. However, because of COVID, right now the CBEST and CSET are temporarily, it's deferred, it's temporarily suspended right now, which means you could apply to a credential program and not have to take these tests. You will have to take them before you finish your credential, but it is not required for the admission process. And then definitely visit us. When we open back up, come and see me in my office, come and visit us in our College of Education. But for right now, reach out, email me. I am more than happy to do one-on-one Zoom sessions. But definitely reach out. It's never too early to start reaching out. Here's a list of our teaching credentials that we offer. We offer quite a few. The multiple subject teaching credential, multiple subject credential is for elementary, if you want to teach elementary school kids. We have 4 options to choose from in the educational specialist. This is if you want to go into special education. And then we have a list of single subject credentials. So single subject credentials if you want to go into teaching the high school level. I want to briefly talk about our different pathways. So what happens once you finish, once you get your bachelor's, how long is it going to take you? So we have different options. We have 2 options. So if you are a freshman, maybe even a sophomore, maybe you're at a local community college, we have 2 options for juniors. One is the ITEP program. So that's if you want to earn your bachelor's degree and credential at the same time. That will take 2 to 3 years. Again, just depends on how long it's going to take you to get your bachelor's degree. But this is a program through liberal studies. So you would actually major in liberal studies and get your multiple subject and teaching credential at the same time, or your special education credential, education specialist credential, and bachelor's degree at the same time. Another option we have for juniors is to, for single subject, you get your English degree, bachelor's, and your credential, or your math, a major in math and your credential at the same time. Then we have a traditional credential program. So that's basically you get your bachelor's degree and you decide you want to do your credential program. You do it at your own pace, whether you want to go full-time, whether you want to go part-time. It will take 2 to 3 years, but it's a traditional credential program. Then we have 2 programs that are accelerated. Pretty much you are in a credential program for 1 year. So in 1 year, you're in and you're out. The Accelerated Collaborative Teacher Education Program, the ACT program, it's just a 1-year program. The only thing about this is that if you wanted to do this program, it's only fall and spring. You can't enter in the spring and then finish in the fall. You would have to start the program in the fall. The other one, what I want to talk to you about is our ACT-R. So there was a question about financial aid or how do we fund our education if we want to go in the credential program. This is a great program because students are eligible to get a $15,000 stipend if they do this program. However, you must, and we're looking for diverse students. You must go into special education or math or science, a math or science single subject. The other thing with this is that if you do this program, you do have to commit to teaching at ALUSD for 4 years. But $15,000, that pretty much covers your tuition for the year if you are granted that. Finally, we have our internship program, and that's open to any students who got offered a job in teaching as long as they're currently in a credential program, and that takes about 2 years. So here's the breakdown for our tuition and fees. CSUN is an affordable institution when it comes to our credential. If you're going to go part-time, it's about $2,500. So that's anywhere between 3 units to 6 units. If you're going to go full-time, it's 6.1 units and above. So whether you take 9 units or 12 units, it's going to be about $4,000 a semester. When you look at other campuses nearby, it's a little bit more costly. The first one is $442 per unit. That, if you do the math, that's pretty comparable to our tuition. But if you go down another campus near us, it's $790 per unit. So you times that by 6, you times that by 12, it will be up there. And another neighboring school, they do quarterly tuition, and that's going to be about $5,400 a quarter. And as you know, if you go to a quarter system, there's more quarters in the year, so you be paying more. So at CSUN, I've always said you get a lot of bang for your buck at CSUN. And there's also financial aid and scholarships available. So as a credentialed student, you are still eligible for a Pell Grant. You're still eligible for a state university grant. There's also a Teach Grant. And once you become a teacher, there are teacher loan forgiveness programs out there. The College of Education offers a wide variety of scholarships. These are just a few that we have to offer, and we have a lot more, but they range anywhere from $500 to $7,500. So I just learned today that our application workshop, we're actually all full. The last ones are offered next week, and we are full. However, there is some important information on there. There are some PowerPoints on there that you could look at to learn more about our credential programs. And our application deadlines never change. To apply to be eligible for the spring admission, it's always December 1st. And to apply for the fall admission cycle, it's always July 1st. That's pretty much it for me. I'm going to put a survey link into the chat box. Please fill out a survey to let us know how we did. And we still have another speaker, so don't leave yet. But most importantly, if you are interested in learning more about the CSUN Credential Program, at the end of the survey, you are, if you'd like to put in your information, I'm personally going to contact you. It won't be like a random person. It will be Jacqueline Keatsman that will reach out to you if you have any questions about our credential programs. Follow us. We are active on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at Eisner Education. We put a lot of our updates on our social media about different workshops, application deadlines. So, I would love to stay connected to you. Are there any questions? No? I will go ahead and put the link, the survey link into the chat box, but I will be here all night as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Well, perfect. If we have no more questions, or if we have no questions at the moment, you guys could drop them in the Q&A box or in the chat box if you think a little bit later. But let's thank Jacqueline. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for coming to do that presentation, because, I'm super interested in this information. And I know a few of you all will be interested too in this program that's coming up. So make sure y'all apply. December 1st, deadline for spring semester. Next up, we have 2 more raffles, so be sure that you guys stick around to the very end because we have raffles throughout the entire night. But next, we have Associate Student Productions Leader Norris Miner here to present our next speaker. So, Norris.
Hello. So I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Corliss P. Bennett, who is the current Director of Student Success Outcomes at Humboldt State University. She serves as the principal leader of the Enrollment Management Division in establishing a systematic program of assessment and evaluation essential to supporting the long-term strategic planning for student services. Prior to that, she spent 3 years as the director of the Cultural Centers for Academic Excellence, where she was responsible for overseeing a multi-program portfolio of culturally based student service programs designed to provide Humboldt State students with networks that blend cultural, community, and academic engagement. Before beginning her career in higher education, she served as a middle school teacher in the Los Angeles area for 4 years. She spent 25 years working at such prestigious institutions as Harvey Mudd College, Occidental College, Holy Names University, University of San Francisco State University, University of Southern California, and Humboldt State University. She earned her doctorate in educational leadership with an emphasis on higher education administration from the University of Southern California. She also holds a Master of Arts in International and Multicultural Education with an emphasis on student affairs from the University of San Francisco, and holds a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies with an emphasis on Sociology and Education from the University of California, Riverside. Dr. Bennett has a wealth of expertise in leading culturally oriented student service programs and a lifelong commitment to supporting college access and success for students from historically underserved communities. She's worked in educational institutions on numerous levels in a variety of capacities, including admissions, pre-college guidance counseling, teaching, or providing educational and motivational seminars to parents, students, and professional staff. It's with great pleasure I introduce Dr. Corliss P. Bennett.
Thank you. Yay. Okay. Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to be here with you tonight, because Black teachers do matter. And thank you, Dr. Ivy, for your story. We're very similar in some things there. So let me start, as I do everything that I do. I always start with a quote from the infamous rapper Sugar Free. Sugar Free says in one of his songs, "If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready." And everybody, like, when I do that, everybody's like, what? Because I'm doing a keynote, or I'm doing a keynote for Black graduation here, I'm doing a presentation here. I always start off with that. And those words are so powerful to that song, that line in that song, because we as people of color, we have always got to be ready. We will always be viewed as several steps behind, or in most cases at the bottom of the stack, for lack of better words. Black and brown, we are this, they want to be so much like us. They want to tan their bodies so that they can have the melanin that we have. They want to, borrow our songs and rap music and commercials. But yet they treat us like poo, for lack of better words. So it's really interesting when I think about that. It's like we always have to stay ready, and we always have to stay on point. And you as college students, you got to stay on point. And that means studying extra. That means, a lot of us will sit in the back of the classroom And I always say that Rosa Parks freed us from sitting in the back of anything. So we've got to step up our game so that our professors know that we mean business in their classes. As soon as you slack off and act like you're not interested, that's the difference between a B+ and an A-. And what's that difference? Answering questions in class, asking questions in class, and being alert with the class, not falling asleep. Now that we have entered this COVID situation, it's a little different. And I can't even imagine having to switch either midway my education, my senior year of my education, to online. Because I know for me, I don't like online. I like to be right there. I want to get the instant gratification of the answer to the question right then and there, and not have to type a question, wait for the professor to send it back, and go all that. I'm very social. So this COVID thing is wearing me out. These walls behind me, they have been caving in since March. And I tell you, it is difficult for me because I'm kind of a social butterfly. And it's very different. So I can't even imagine what you as students are going through having to take classes online, because I've never taken a class online. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, for me, I need to be able to see everybody and interact. So I hope that you are taking advantage of whatever programs and services are available to you to help you get through this online experience. Professors love it when you go to office hours, pre-COVID. So if you have issues, email the professor and set up a Zoom, one-on-one Zoom with him or her, or a telephone conference. Professors love when students come in and ask questions. And that also gives them an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. Now, I had to learn these things, or I should say, when I learned these things, I realized that education was easier for me. First of all, I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm the only one on both sides of my family that has a master's and now a doctorate degree. I'm from LA, grew up on off of Crenshaw and Slauson, West Side. Just want to throw that out there, just because you can't take the sister out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the sister. Anyway, I grew up off of 3rd Avenue in Slauson. Yes, okay, I see you, Ivana. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Anyway, so I grew up in the community. So I was not in this silver spoon situation and all of that. I grew up right there. My mom still lives on the corner of 3rd Avenue and 59th Street, right across from 59th Street School. My mom worked at the elementary school as a teacher's assistant because she didn't have a college degree, but she worked as a teacher's assistant and she could handle those kids. What's really funny is that the kids that were bad were sent to they finally gave my mom like a classroom per se, kind of like the detention room per se they used during the day. And those bad kids would get sent to her and my mama could handle them. Trust and believe. She could handle them kids. And the ones that she was handling, y'all, was the rolling 60s. Can you believe that? The gangsters and stuff in my neighborhood, because we're all the same age. And now, we're all the same age. And so she taught those kids. And so anything that happened in that neighborhood, our house was protected. Right there on the corner of 59th and 3rd Avenue, the rolling 60s met right there at the 59th Street School. That's where they met. We drove a blue car. I wouldn't be caught dead in this red over there. That's for doggone sure at that time. But because there was that, everybody knew Miss Bennett, we were just protected. We would walk home from school or whatever. They tease us because I went to St. Mary's Academy. So I wore a full uniform. My sister, who's 3 years younger, went to St. Bernard's. And she was the last class that didn't have to wear a uniform. So right when she was a sophomore, the freshmen started wearing a uniform. So, they used to tease me, Catholic school girl, and I'd be like, hey, Poochie, hey, T-Bone, as I'm walking home, they would tease us, but it was all in love. I say that to say, which is really interesting, because even as a little girl, from the day I can remember, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I had 2 instances where I was really impactful. First of all, again, living across the street from 59th Street School, there was a lot of books and things that teachers would throw out. And my mom would scoop them up and bring them home. And at the end of the year, one year, and I'm thinking about Dr. Ivy when she was talking about records. At the end of the year, one year, there was this chalkboard. I know y'all are like, what? A chalkboard? Yes, a chalkboard on wheels. And she drug that thing home and brought it. And so I had it in the backyard. So in the summers, I used to teach. And I was bossy, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Repeat that, you know, because I wanted to be a teacher. That was all. I didn't think about anything else but teaching. And so I used to teach the neighborhood kids, but I also used to teach my little sister, again, who's 3 years younger than me. So I take all the credit, okay, for her being as smart as she is today. Because what I used to do is I would teach her what I was learning, which was 3 grade levels ahead of her. So by the time she got there, she's making straight A's. Now I was an A-B student, in there between 3.0 and 3.3, 3.5 on occasion. But she was an all A student. She graduated valedictorian from 8th grade because we went to private school. So I went to Ascension Lutheran, which only went to 6th grade in LA off of Slauson and West Boulevard by the car wash for those who are from the area. And then we went and moved over to Inglewood and went to Good Shepherd Lutheran, which was K through 8. So she started there in the 4th grade. I did 7th and 8th grade and then went on to high school. But what happened was she ended up being the valedictorian of 8th grade. She ended up being the valedictorian of senior year high school from St. Bernard's. And she went to that other school in the other side over there in Westwood, that one over there. By the way, I am a USC Trojan through and through, fight on. So that's why I said that. She went to that other school, Westwood Academy, I think it's called, over there in Westwood. And she graduated summa cum laude? Yes, summa cum laude, and graduated in early. She did 3 years and a quarter because they're on the quarter system. So I think back and I say, I remember, you know, wanting to be a teacher. So let me come back a little bit. So here I am at St. Mary's Academy. I want to be a teacher. Everybody knows I want to be a teacher. I was a tutor in the English department at high school. In Girl Scouts, I was a tutor. I was a babysitter that ended up tutoring kids. That was my thing. Nobody could tell me nothing. I was going to be a teacher. And one day there was some noise. I was in class and my teacher said, hey, Corliss, why don't you can you take this down the hall from me to the office? I was like, no problem. So when I was walking down the hall, I heard a male's voice. Now, mind you, St. Mary's Academy is an all-girls Catholic school. And I knew all the male teachers that worked there, at least their voices. But this voice was different. So I'm kind of ear hustling, right? Like, who is this that's talking to, you know, and I peek in and I see all the homies there. And this guy is talking about what college he represents and giving the college presentation. So if you can remember back when you were in high school, different college reps would come in and talk to you about the college, their college. And I'm just like, and I'm trying to figure out, well, why didn't Sister So-and-so, that's what we're going to call her, to, protect the innocent. I'm trying to figure out why Sister So-and-so wouldn't tell me that there's a college prep person. So I went on to the office, came back, I'm ear hustling again. And I'm listening to him talk about what you need: 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, blah, 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 his college, blah, blah, blah. And I go back into the go back to the classroom, and then it's break or recess, for lack of better words, or break. We were in high school. So I went to talk to Sister So-and-so. Now, Sister So-and-so looked like homegirl that was in Sister Act with the big old, the black, with the whole setup where you can only see her face, and that cloth, that thing went up to her neck, and then so the big nun that was that hopefully y'all saw Sister Act, but you could only see her face, and this sister was like really tall, and kind of, she could be scary. I wasn't scared of her, but she would appear to be scary. So I walk in her office. I said, "Hey, Sister So-and-so, why you didn't tell me that college rep was here?" She said to me. And she looked down on me like this. And she said to me, "You're not mature enough to go to 4-year institution." I was like, okay. Why would you say that? She said, "You're just loud. You're just too happy. And I'm sitting here like, okay, she ain't said nothing about academics, not mind you, in this definition of me not being ready for 4-year. She said, "You should just go to El Camino." Now, let me preface this by saying there is nothing wrong with going to a community college at all. So let me put that out there. But she was making it my own choice, or trying to make it my only choice. And I looked at her and I said, well, because at that time in the 80s, The big thing was if you were top 10% of your class, you could go to a UC system school. And so I had been doing my thing, you know, and I was top 10% of my class. So I'm looking at her and I said, well, what's that got to do with my grades? I've been on the honor roll all 4 years. The only time you moved my name, C. Bennett, was when you took it from the freshman list and put it back up on the sophomore list. And when you moved it from the sophomore list and you put it on the junior list, or when you moved it from the junior list and you put it on the senior list. And then the last time you touched my name was when I graduated. So what is up? What do you mean? She's like, well, you know, you just need to not worry about a 4-year. So you, right? I saw that comment, right? So I went home and I told my mama, right? Who is from Jackson, Mississippi. I think I heard somebody talk about Greenville. From Jackson, Mississippi. Mind you, her and my dad's goal was to make sure that we went to college. And here's somebody telling her baby that she's not going to college. So needless to say, my mama rolled up there the next day and set some things straight and told her, don't she ever not let me know when the next college rep is going, because my daughter is going to college and she's going to do it without you. Bam. And then there was a drop the mic moment, but of course that was the 80s. So there was no drop the mic. So I'm gonna drop the pen for my mama right now. There you go. Anyway, so from that point on, I could have thought about, because you know how there's haters among us, y'all. There's folks who just hate on you just because. This woman was just hating on me because I smiled every day and because I was popular. And I was popular in the sense that I was a freshman class representative, sophomore class president, junior class representative, then became the senior class vice president, also president of senior control, which was like the police. And she's like, not even trying to hear me. She just thought about me and being bubbly and acting silly or whatever in the hallways and didn't think of me. So I showed her, right? So here I am. Now it's time to take the SAT. And I'll speed this up in the sense that my SAT score, well, let's just say 1600 is a perfect score, right? How many of you, and let me go to the chat just in case so I can see, how many of you, well, never mind the chat because I can't see me at the chat. The window comes right in front of me. If you remember the movie Boys in the Hood, and I'm assuming you all saw it, Ricky dead, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. Anyway, Ricky's goal was to play football where? At USC, fight on. And if you recall in the movie, all he needed was a 700 on the SAT and he would get a full scholarship to USC to play ball. Everybody remember that? Anybody remember that? You know, the whole, beside the whole get out the hood piece and, you know, do your thing, the other part of the movie was to get so that he could go to USC and play football. 700. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here on my couch at my house to tell you that I didn't even get a 700. Now y'all like, now how y'all got this woman up here talking about Black teachers and she is an educator and she can't even get a 700? Nope. And my Catholic college prep education, my school, you know what they did? 2 weeks before the SAT, the October SAT in 1983, my senior year, we had the first weekend, they did a weekend going over the verbal section, the second weekend, the math, and then the third weekend, we took the test. For real? Is that prep? Is that really prep? I mean, right, crazy. So, yes, the system is broken, Dr. Ivy. So here I am, you know, and not, you know, 700. My combined score, ladies and gentlemen, was a 590. 270 verbal, 320 math. Sorry, 270 math, 320 verbal. Test taking is not my thing, but don't get it twisted. I was on the honor roll all 4 years. I maintained a 3.0 or higher my whole time in high school. I got the English, the American Literature Award my junior year and the US History Award my junior year. So if you put me with a test like that, where someone teaches me the material, I will learn it and understand it, then I can pass your little test. But that SAT, you know, that culturally biased test, You know, where on the SAT will they say, you know, where is the Inglewood Library? What street is it on? Manchester and La Brea, or something that's going to affect us as Black and brown people. Where are you going to see that on the SAT? It's culturally biased. I'm not a good standardized test taker. Well, that kind of eased into knowing that I want to be a teacher and I want to be there to help other students have the opportunities. And that's why I went into education and went to be a teacher. So I did get into UC Riverside with in the ELP program. An ELP program, Equal Opportunity Program, was for first generation Black, brown, and Native American students. At that time, they had a wonderful summer bridge program where I went to campus. I graduated in 84, that's right, ELP. I graduated in 84, and we spent 6 weeks on campus at UC Riverside. I stayed in the dormitories or the rest halls. I had 49 different friends. We had an English class, a math class by professors, UCR professors, and then we had classes like speed reading, note-taking, public speaking, and all these different things that would help us to be better students once school started in the fall. So now here I am, got into UC Riverside. I'm there, I'm doing my thing. And all I could think about was, I got to do this because I first of all, I'm the first in my family. I'm a role model for my sister, who I know is going to do well because she's straight A student. But I had to think about how many haters are in your life told you that you wouldn't be what you might be or are today. And and trust me, they don't stop. The haters continue. I have haters to this day that hate me because I smile. Like, how stupid is that? But that's not my problem. So here I am, getting ready to graduate. I'm the only one of my friends that wants to be a school teacher. Everybody's like, girl, you ain't gonna make no money. You know, they were business majors and econ majors, and everybody had this and that. And I said, no, I want to be a school teacher. And so that was my thing. So I get ready to teach. Now I got to take this doggone CBEST. Now I already told you that I did not do well on standardized tests. It is amazing how the body can react to stressful things. And I need some water, excuse me. How the body can react to some stressful things. So I took the CBEST, and you had to have a 41 on each section. I got a 39 in the reading. I got a 38 or something in the other, and then the math was low because math is not my thing. So I ended up getting a tutor, retaking the test again. The math came up a little bit. The reading is still, so here I am, you need a 41. I'm like right there, but it's not good enough. So I took it one more time. And that last time, would you believe I got pink eye? Because I was so stressed that Monday I ended up pink eye. I went to the doctor. I'm on meds, eye drops, all that. And when I get to the test, I have a box of tissue to make sure I'm okay. I take the test. As soon as the test was over, maybe 2 hours later, eyes white as snow. Like, that's how stress will do to you. And so I could not, unfortunately, pass the CBEST. So that meant that I couldn't teach in the public school system here in Los Angeles. So I was like, nope, that ain't gonna stop me. Somebody's gonna let me teach. And I taught at a private school. So I taught 4 years of middle school. I went to Baldwin Hills Elementary, where I was a teacher's assistant right out of college. And the teacher, Miss Williams, I believe, if I call her, I taught 5th grade. And what ended up happening was she knew I wanted to be a teacher, so she let me teach. Don't tell nobody. So I wrote up the lesson plans, and she went over after school. She would show me stuff, and then I would teach in her class, and she would like critique me. So then when I left there, I actually became a teacher in a Catholic school in North LA, over off the avenues in Highland Park, called Divine Savior, which is a K through 8th grade Catholic school. And I was the only Black person in the whole school in a Latino neighborhood. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So I taught 2 years of 8th grade there. And then I came back over to LA, this part of LA, and I taught at West Angeles Christian Academy, which is part of West Angeles Church of God in Christ Church off of Crenshaw and Jefferson, for those who are familiar with the area. I wanted to be a teacher so bad. And the thing was, the things that I was teaching though, I remember one of my students saying, Miss B, you were the hardest teacher I ever had. Now, Abel Calderon is a lawyer, and he's telling me I'm the hardest teacher he ever had. You know why? Because my thing was not just teaching the English, the math, the science, blah, 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 but not just teaching life skills and academic survival. See, one thing about my mom, even though she didn't have her degree, she knew how to study. We had note cards. We had notebooks, 3-ring notebooks for each topic at home so that we could put our homework in and know how to study. So when I was in the 8th grade teacher, I taught my students how to do outlines of chapters. They had to do an outline of chapter for science because, okay, this is a K through 8 school, so it's set up like elementary. So I taught everything but religion because I'm not Catholic. So I would switch with the 7th grade teacher and I would teach her class social studies and she would teach my class religion. So I had the K through 8 type of, I taught, everything, reading, math, blah, blah, blah. And my students had to do an outline for science, for history. And then in reading, of course, but the thing was, I taught my students the educational game. And I need y'all to get on the game because what y'all don't realize is we as teachers and educators, we're giving you all the answers and you don't even realize it. We're giving you everything you need. So for example, when I was teaching, I made them do outlines. They had to have note cards. Let me talk about this. One of the things that Norris will remember, and I'll tell you how I know Norris. Teachers helped you and you didn't even know it, right? Let's go back. Come on, everybody come back with me to elementary. Remember spelling? Does anybody remember what was Monday night's homework in spelling? I'm gonna tell you because we don't have time. Monday night, I'm gonna tell you what happened in my school. Monday night, you wrote the words 10 times each. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember that? 5 times each, something like that. That's Monday night. Okay, Dr. Ivory, you're almost there. That's Wednesday night. That's Wednesday night sentences. So let me just tell you what happened in my school. Monday night, you wrote the word 10 times each. Tuesday nights, you wrote the words in alphabetical order and you did the definitions. Then Dr. Ivory, Wednesday nights was sentences. Then on Thursday, you just reviewed because why? The spelling test was on Friday. Every Friday you had a spelling test. Now I don't understand. If you did your homework on Monday night, you've seen the word 10 times. If you did your homework on Tuesday night, you've now seen the word 11 times. If you did your homework on Wednesday night, you've seen the word 12 times. And then on Thursday, if you reviewed it, you've seen the word 13 times. Can somebody tell me why you don't have an A in spelling? See, the teacher gave you the homework because the homework is the answers to the test. So for those students who didn't do that, they couldn't pass the test. This stuff translates to college, y'all. Notebook, note taking, note cards. I used to record my voice and go over and do study sheets. And it doesn't take much because if you're studying a little bit each day, by the time the test comes, you can pass it. Why? Because the homework is the answers to the test. The other piece of knowing what you need to do as a college student is the syllabus. It tells you, this is what you need to read by this time frame. There's a quiz on this time. There's a quiz right here. There's a paper over here. You have this many points to get an A, this many points to get a B. So you know ahead of time what you need to do. You just choose not to do it. Some of you, I'm assuming everybody on here knows what they're doing since they want to be a teacher. But my point is, we give you the tools and people don't think of it like that. They just think of, oh, Miss Ben is so hard. She's making us write these note cards. She's getting on my nerves. And then later, when my students got in high school, they were doing it on their own. When they got to college, they were doing it on their own. And when Abel got to law school, and they give you a lot of reading in law school, and a lot of situations where you would being able to, ask questions or answer questions. And he was like, Miss B, you were the hardest teacher, but that's because you showed me the game. And my thing is, as an educator, I'm trying to put people up on game, straight up. Put people up on game. So it's really interesting as I look back over my life and I applied to colleges and I didn't get in because of my SAT score. And you know where else I was denied? USC. And it's so funny how years later, now they're paying me to work for them. Go figure, right? So I was denied and then I'm paid later. I worked at USC for 20 years. Now let me go back on how this whole education piece and why Black teachers matter, because a teacher not necessarily is in the classroom. It's just, I'm looking at education as a whole because I will never leave education. So I went from teaching middle school, to now, because I talked to my 8th graders and anybody who will listen to me about pre-college. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to study. You need your 4 years of English, your 3 years of math, your 2 years of science, your 2 years of social science, and your 2 years of a foreign language. But you know what? Take 4 years of everything and you're the bomb. And that was always my thing. And so somebody came to me and said, Corliss, you need to be a college recruiter. We need you in our community so that you can let folks know what's needed to get into college. And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. So I went from teaching math, science, English, and so forth, to teaching folks how to get into college and what they needed to do. So I became an admissions counselor. I worked at Occidental College for 2 years. By the way, Occidental College, that's right, outreach. I see you, Vera. I went to, just to let you know, Obama went to Occidental and then transferred to the East Coast. That's just a side note of history. Anyway, I worked at Occidental College for 2 years. So now my shift is from subject matter to pre-college outreach. And so I did that for 2 years. And again, I'm the one that's doing the presentations to the Upward Bound kids that's coming for a tour, or I'm being asked by the college college counselor at the different high schools, Westchester and so forth. Corliss, can you come back and talk to our parents? I did parent nights. I've been to folks' churches, because somebody's baby mama's cousin's sister-in-law's uncle is the pastor over here at Ebenezer's Baptist Church on 95th and Main or whatever. And that's all I do. And I still do to this day. I'm always encouraging, and I have my own business, Bennett Motivational Services, where I am totally still outreaching and talking to our community. So this is what happened. I was at Occidental and they said, you know what? You need to go back to school. And I was like, I'm cool. I did with my mom and daddy. I got my BA. I'm good. End of discussion. They're like, Corliss, you need to go back to school. So what happened was, I'm in Oakland recruiting for Occidental. And I was at Castlemont High School, which is on kind of a rough side of the neighborhood. I'm in there, and none of the students showed up for the career thing, that, the time where I talked to them about Occidental. So the counselor, Brother Johnny, he was like, what's going on with you? And he's like, you should go back to school. He was the one that said it. I was like, no. He said, look, you need to go to my alma mater, USF. It's right across the bridge. You'll love it. And I was like, no, I'm cool, because all I could think about was the GRE. And I was like, I didn't do well on the SAT. I'm not even trying to go there with the GRE. He said, you don't need no GRE to get into USF. I was like, oh! I was on next day after I did all my school visits. I hopped on that Oakland Bay Bridge, went straight to USF. I called ahead of time to see if I could sit in on the class. The classes were in the evening. I was like, hey, I talked to my professor, God rest her soul, Dr. Anita DeFrance, who ended up being my chair of my master's, my advisor for the thesis and everything. I sat in her class and I was like, oh my God. So I earned my master's in international and multicultural education, because again, I'm still trying to do the education thing. And once I graduated from there, that's when I came back to LA in 1996 and was at USC for 20 years. I started back in admissions again. I'm familiar with that. So I was doing admissions for USC for 3 years. Same thing. I'm hitting all my different territories. I've got Louisiana to the water. So Louisiana and East. I had the DC area. I had most of California. I had all of California except for Orange County and other places that weren't very black and brown. So I went to all the high schools that all of you guys have probably been through, that's here on this Zoom. But here's the thing. I was like, I want to make sure that students not only get in, but they stay in. So I got a call from the VP of Student Affairs, and he was like, Corliss, we got this position. I think you'll be great. I've heard from the students how you fight for them and helping them stay in school. We want you to be the director of the Center for Black Cultural and Student Affairs at USC, which is the Black Cultural Center. So similar to, I guess, the Black House, we have four. We have the Asian Pacific Student Services, El Centro Chicano, now it's renamed La Casa, and then LGBT Resource Center, and then the Black Cultural Center, for short, Center for Black Cultural and Student Affairs. So I live by these words to this day. I have 4 action words. I want to make sure that I'm giving out information that attracts students to college. So attract. I'm helping any way possible to recruit students, USC or otherwise. It don't matter. I just want you to go. Once you get in, I'm giving you tips as far as academic survival tips and how to study, how to take notes, how to take care of yourself and well-being, eating properly, healthy living, healthy, all of that. So that's part of retention. And what do you think the third verb is? We got attract, recruit, retain, and what? Graduate. And I used to do the sessions every year where we got together with the Latino Cultural Center, and we did a orientation, a Black and Latino orientation, new student orientation. And I would do my presentation on teaching them how, I used to call it no more C's. And some of the things that I've been talking about, taking notes and blah, 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 was a part of that piece. It's really about how you go about it, because folks are going to be hating. I've had those professors that tried to hate, and they hated me because I would have my stuff on time. I mean, I could go on how the haters be hating on folks that's just trying to do what they need to do in order to be successful. So here I am after 20 years at USC. Now it's 2003, and I heard Dr. Ivory say she was part of the first cohort. I was part of the first cohort at USC for the doctorate in educational leadership, where they had a cohort model. They already had a doctorate in education, but they started this educational leadership. And in this piece, we were in a cohort model. So the first year I had class on Thursdays from 4 to 10, and you stayed with that group of people fall semester and spring semester. So we had people who were thinking about community college, people who were looking at educational administration, and for me, higher ed. What was really funny is I had a teacher in there, a professor in there and it was a sister. That's what kills me sometimes. And, after the first class, this is before everything was online. She passed out this syllabus, y'all. That syllabus was 41 pages. I was like, oh, for real? I was like, I picked it up. It had weight on it. And I was like, what am I doing here? I started to self-doubt. And I'm just kind of flecking through it. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. What am I thinking? I can't do this. I can't do this. And I was like, okay, Corliss, you tripping. So I went home, I read through it, and I put Post-it notes. I'm a Post-it note queen. I put Post-it notes and highlighted the different questions I had so that the next class I could ask. Do you know that woman hated me because I asked too many questions? Now, mind you, ain't nobody else asking questions. I'm always the one that's gonna ask questions. I'm always the one that people came to me if they missed class to get notes, right? And a couple people had questions, but I would wait. I wouldn't try to, just be the only one speaking. But when nobody else didn't raise their hand, I rose mine. So I said, yeah, on page 25, you were saying something on that for this paper, you're gonna give us such and such. When are we gonna get that? And it was just like, she would look at me, when I'll get it to you. She just had an attitude. I don't know why. I'm just trying to get an A. You know what I'm saying? And I see the syllabus and I'm just trying to get through it. And I'm trying to make sure, because this paper was due right before my mom's birthday. And I was giving her, it was her 60th birthday party. And I knew that I needed to do this paper early because I knew that it was going to be due that Monday of her party. And I didn't want to have to think about that. And I knew that I needed to do it early so that it could get done. So I needed the information. So anyway, long story short, she just gave me attitude the rest of the semester. I couldn't believe it. And then one time, y'all, we're in class, and she asked a question. And I do this because I wait. I just wait and let everybody, and when people don't say nothing, Corliss's hand is up. And so, I wait. And so she asked a question. Nobody asked a question. I had my hand up, y'all. I swear to you, had my hand up. Do you know she didn't call on me? And I had my hand up. I said, and I whispered loud enough so she could hear me. I said, I know she could see my hand. What the hell is going on? I'm just telling you what happened. And I was like, I know she see me. And my girlfriend said, girl, stop. And I said, this is ridiculous. I have to go to the dean on her. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is her problem? So trust me, the haters keep hating, no matter what level you are, jobs, and whatever the case may be. I'm trying to look at my notes so I can remember. So here I am in 2003, starting this program. And then unfortunately, I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. And so I was dealing with some of that. So I didn't graduate till 11 years later. So I always think about Mary J's Pride. 11 years I sacrificed. Remember that jam? Without the kids, I have nothing. Okay, anyway. So I think about every time I hear that song, I crack up because it took me 11 years to finish my doctorate. And so I finished in 2014. But let me backtrack for a second. I graduated in 84. In 88, I did 4 years at UC Riverside. I sent the invitation with a little fur. This is back in the day. Dr. Ivory and maybe the dean, y'all remember those pictures we have to take, you know, lean in, put your head, remember that? Anyway, the little fur pictures. I sent her an invitation to my college graduation in 1988. And, you know, it had a little cursive, had my little picture and a little signature card. And I wrote on there, thanks for your support, ... And this is a hater none. So here we go. Now we move up to my master's, which I finished in 01. But here's the thing. I got my doctorate exactly 30 years after that nun told me that I wouldn't amount to anything because I was too loud and too goofy and I smiled too much. 30 years to the semester, I got that doctorate, y'all. So I'm here to tell you, by hook or crook, whatever it is you want to be when you grow up, educating minds, I just took teaching to a whole different level. I just switched it up from math and science to teaching students and parents the pre-college thing, to then going into the cultural centers and now teaching students how to survive in college, giving them any support that was needed as the director of the cultural centers. But the thing that I was doing when after I got my doctorate is that I could not get the job because I didn't have supervision experience. So I would have to leave USC in order to get that. So that is why I'm now at Cal State Humboldt, which is way up north. By the way, it's 5 hours past San Francisco. Yes, there's life after San Francisco. Here's the Oregon border. Here's Humboldt. No diversity, 2% Black. Actually, it was 2.1 when I got there, okay? So 2.1% Black, 3% Asian, okay? Something's wrong when there's no Asian folks involved, and about 10 to 12% Latino. And because that area, there was 13 tribes. So there was a strong Native American presence, but you didn't see it because they stayed kind of to themselves on the reservation and only came out for shopping, Costco, Walmart, that type of thing. So in that position, I was the director of all the cultural centers. So that's where I ended up getting my supervision experience. So now I'm back here in Los Angeles. I'm here in Inglewood. Because of COVID, you know, we're talking about different, COVID situation and how it's changing. Because of COVID, let me back up. I actually came here for a job interview at Cal State LA, trying to stay in the CSU system around Valentine's. And I also came from, okay, Kyle, you're in Inglewood. Okay, we have to hook up somehow and do some social distancing. Anyway, I came home for the interview and to help my mom with my dad. And my dad had at that time dementia, Parkinson's variant. Anyway, he passed on March 1st. And so here I am, I get into student affairs mode. Okay, I gotta get the flowers, gotta get the music. Okay, get the phone. So who's gonna sing? I'm calling folks from USC. Okay, I need you to sing, like the gospel choir. Boom, boom, boom. We're moving, we're grooving. The funeral was on March 12th, which was my last public appearance. On March 14th, the country shut down, right? And I'm like, okay. And then that Monday, it was, everybody scrambling, trying to figure out what's going on. And then the CSU chancellor sent an email that said, if you are 65 and older, which I'm not, or have an underlying medical condition, which I have, please do not return to campus. I was like, oh, what a shame. I don't have to go back up to Humboldt. That is really too bad. Oh boy, I don't have to go up there where there's no diversity. I could actually stay in Southern California. So needless to say, one of my sorority sisters owns this apartment building. I was able to get a secure 1-bedroom apartment, and this way I can stay here with my family. So that's my pandemic positive. I'm able to stay here. My parents were married 57 years, and I'm just terrified. Sometimes you hear, when one parent goes or one grandparent goes, the other goes soon. And I was just like terrified. And I really didn't want to leave to go back up there, but I still needed my job. This is yes, ma'am, a pandemic positive. So now I'm in Inglewood. I'm 4 miles from my mom. My sister lives in Torrance, so she's about 7 or 8 miles the other direction. And I'm back home and I'm chilling. And just like everybody else in the CSU system, we're working from home. And so I am still doing my thing. And this is why I do what I do, because like I said, teaching can be looked at different angles. If it's me doing student affairs, I'm still teaching. If it's me helping students to get into college, that's still teaching, okay? But let me tell you how I got here tonight. And this is why I do what I do, and this is, I guess, why folks be hating, whatever. Norris, who's your AS production manager, I believe, I spoke when he was in high school for College Bound San Diego, producer. Okay, thank you, Norris. AS producer. I spoke to their group, and actually their group came to campus a couple times. And when they came to campus, I knew the directors of the program. So they called me ahead of time. I said, okay, we're gonna have the admissions people do an interview, but I'm gonna talk to your kids so they know what's really going on, right? Norris was one of those students. I believe I met him when he was in the 10th grade, Norris. Go ahead and throw a chat up to make me sure. I think you, because I know you've heard me speak at least 3 times, probably. This is your 4th, but something like that. Okay, summer at the 9th grade, dang. Okay, so he's heard me speak 5 times, including tonight. And so I guess when you guys were putting this program together about Black Teachers Matter, or in my case, Black Educators Matter, I guess he told somebody, I know who I want to bring on as a speaker. I haven't seen him since his senior year, y'all. I spoke at his program his senior year. Is that right, Jackie? Is that what he told you, Jacqueline? He said, I know who I'm gonna get. That's why I do what I do. Because here he is. I ain't seen this boy, I ain't heard from him. He come emailing me, hey, Dr. Bennett, this is me, you met me, blah, 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 College Bound, and I'm doing this program and you gotta be the speaker. I'm gonna say, I was like, absolutely. And I was thinking to myself, as much as the staff and faculty and those people who be hating, you know, for example, if I'm getting introduced for a program, I'll get, you know, a clap or maybe a standing ovation. And then when the president gets introduced, it's kind of like, you know, yay. And then they get hating, oh, you got a cult following. I said, why are you hating me because I'm beautiful? You know, why are you hating? If you would get out of your office, walk around, sit with students during lunchtime, get a feel for what they're going through, have open door policy where students can feel like you can come and talk to them, maybe somebody will stand up and clap for you too. I had to clown somebody a couple times. And I'm just like, stop hating, because I want to make sure that I'm involved with the student experience so that I can represent the students at the administrative table. And that's why I know why teachers matter, why educators matter, and why it's important to be a role model in this field. Because of things like this, 4 years later, I haven't, not that I don't think about them, but you know what I'm saying. 4 years later, I'm doing this. I'm in the nail shop, last story. I'm in the nail shop, y'all. Last week, my birthday was Saturday. Everybody say happy birthday, whoop, whoop. I just turned 54, what? Anyway, and I celebrate all month. So feel free to, you know, drop a line all 30 days. I do it all. Anyway, I went to get my nails done last week. I got a mask on. I'm coming out. One of my students like, Corliss. I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, oh my God, it's me. And I'm looking, because, you know, people look older. I was like, hey. And she was like, it's Rasha. I was like, Rasha Harris? She's like, oh my God, you remember me. I'm a Delta, and we have a program called Delta Gems, which is a program for high school girls, 9th grade to 12th grade. And I was the chair when she was a senior. And she was in my program as a senior, my first year being the chair. And she just kept, oh my God, I talk about you. And it's because of you, I'm doing what I'm doing. And she's doing volunteer work. She's helping the homeless. I mean, she's doing all kind of stuff. But it was just like, when I left out of there, I said, that's right. No matter how many times these other folks want to hate, because haters gonna hate. All I know is when my students come back to me and say, will you come and speak? Or somebody comes to me in a nail shop, random, and say, because of you, I'm doing this. Or when a student comes to me and says, I'm in an interview and I'm interviewing at San Francisco State, for real. And I go around the table, and the second to the last person, it's like 10 people. And I was interviewing there 2 years ago. And this girl, after she's interviewing, and I'm wrapping up, I promise. She's sitting there right now. I usually have my little red nails. I had on a suit, you know, red and black. You know, I'm gonna bust it out. I'm gonna represent. She said, Dr. Bennett, before I ask my question, I have to say something. So I'm thinking in my mind, she's gonna tease me because my red purse matches my red nails or something, you know. And I had a fan because, you know, you have hot flashes. It's just, you know, life. And I had a red towel to dap my face, you know, when I got the hot flash. So I'm thinking she's gonna say something like this. I swear to you guys, she said to me in that interview, she says, I have one thing to say to you. And I said, okay. She said, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. This girl not only had been to college, got her master's, she's now in the office of where I was applying for at the time. They had an inside candidate, I didn't get it. But the fact, here it is years later. And I looked at her, my eyes swelled, and I was like, oh my God, you've heard me speak. She said, yes, you came to my high school several times and you are the keynote at my high school graduation. And I said, what school? Just tell me what school. She said, the Millennium School. That was in Carson at the time. And I said, 2012. And everybody looked at me like, see, these are things that I remember. I remember student success. You know, I don't remember the haters parts and the things that they always trying to put us down on. And I said, oh my God. And when I looked at her, I said, you went to Hayward? And she said, yes. I said, how's your mama? Mind you, we're in the interview. I said, I'm sorry, hold on. I'm back. What was your question? And we all laughed it off. But I say that to say, when you're in education and you've changed the lives, trust me, it's gonna come back and come back and come back and come back. You're gonna see what you have put your hard work in to someone else, and then you're gonna be asked 4 years later to be a speaker. You're gonna be asked to be the Black graduation speaker at Long Beach State. You're gonna be asked to be the graduation speaker at Pasadena City College. You're gonna be asked to speak at this church because somebody, baby mama's cousin, sister, uncle's daughter went to USC and they said, hey, you need to have Corliss come in. She gonna keep it real. Because so what you see is what you get. And this is how I deal. And all I can say to you is if you wanna make a difference in a child's life, we need you. If you wanna educate and make that child be the best that he or she can be, we need you. Black teachers/educators matter. There it is. Thank you. Can y'all can y'all unmute so I can hear the love? I feel like I'm just talking to myself.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bennett, for your dynamic and compelling story. I'm sure that many here were able to listen and resonate with your words. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us this evening. And really quickly, I wanted to announce that our next two raffle winners are Vera and Tiana. Congratulations, you'll both be receiving a copy of Dr. Ivory's book. Please drop your emails in the chat so we can get in contact with you. And then one more time, I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Bennett, for coming tonight.
Thank you. And Dean, you know, if you got some positions over there, you know, I can send you my resume. I'm just saying, you know.
And then I'll pass it off to Bree for our next raffle.
Okay, I am waiting on the results. Is it the last prize winner I'm announcing? Yeah, all right. The winner is Ivania. Ivania. Is she still here? All right, Ivania, just send your email in the chat and somebody will get back to you about your prize.
Congratulations.
Most definitely. So we just want to for sure say if anybody have any final words, any final, you know, motivational words that you want to give to the students about applying to become a teacher, or why we already talked about why Black teachers matter, but you know, final action words that you want to give our listeners, Dr. Ivory and Dr. Bennett.
Well, I would just say nothing compares to a teacher who is culturally proficient and cares. There's no, and I'm a little biased, but I just think that there is nothing more rewarding than changing the trajectory of students' lives. It is very rewarding.
I think my parting words is what I started with. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, and you need to get ready and start thinking now what it is you want to do and how you want to do it. Especially with teaching, you still have to pass the CBEST and any other tests that are that they've now put a part of that program. If this is what you want to do, by hook or crook, like I did, do what it is that your passion, because it really, it's better to do something that you really are passionate about. Than what happens is work doesn't just be work. You're going because you want to be there. You're not being forced to be there. It's your passion to educate people, educate students.
So Zoom support said that they were able to pull up the video that I wasn't able to pull up, but if I know it's late, if everybody wants to sign off, go ahead. But Zoom support, will you pull that up for me?
Unfortunately, I do have a 7:30, unfortunately, but I want to say it was very good to meet you and hear your story, and knowing that you put through those young your young man through college and everything. So I applaud you and applaud what you're doing. Thank you guys again for letting me be here to share my story and give you some words of encouragement about this topic. And like I said, Black teachers / educators matter. All righty, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Bree.
This song is the title tune for my latest LP, which is entitled Wake Up Everybody. And I'm sure you will all agree there are things that need to be done in this country today. So what I'd like for you to do is listen very carefully and see what you can do to lend a hand. Wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more back thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. So when you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. But they don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we could do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out. They do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, just you and me. Yeah. change it, yeah, change it. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Need some help, y'all. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Yeah, yeah. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, everybody. Need a little help, y'all. Yes, please. Need a little help. Say it, boy. Need some help, y'all. Change the world.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. Ivory. I think that was a good way to wrap up this wonderful workshop. I want to thank you, and I want to say a special thank you to our guests who came out, and also the students who came out and took the time to join us tonight. Join the Black House for our upcoming events. On November 23rd, which is Monday, we'll be doing our Dance Like a Matador dance workshop. We have another episode of Black Table Talk coming for you on the 24th, which is Tuesday. And the following Monday, when we get back, we will be doing our Friend Black Matador event, which is our freshman initiative, where we're reaching out, trying to develop relationships between CSUN's incoming freshmen and students who actually got to experience the campus. If you want to see any of our past events, be sure to follow us on CSUN Black House at CSUN Black House on Instagram, and our website, csunblackhouse.com. Thank you, everyone.